You're on.
Hi, welcome everybody. Welcome to another rendition of Bergflow's Pivot Ready Live. I'm Wesley on the services side of Bergflow. We got Amy who heads up the operations division. If you haven't been listening to us for the last couple of weeks, you can check us out. This is streaming live on Facebook and LinkedIn and a bunch of stuff. You can go there and watch some of the previous episodes. We've kind of been having a conversation that's leading up to this point. So today we're going to dive in understanding what the service division is of the SOG model. So just to recap, a business runs effectively in our world in three divisions: services, operations, and growth. We're going to cover those three over the next 3 weeks, and then today we'll be starting with servicing. So, Amy, take us away.
Well, this is really your conversation to have because you're the service expert. But what I do want to do is, so we're going to focus just on the service division today, and I kind of want you to focus on it from two different sides of it. So, servicing in our world obviously is coaching, and you are kind of the subject matter expertise. So, I want to look at based off of data, we'll call it, what that service division looks like, what the key leader in service division looks like, but then also to look at it from the flip side of what just kind of your um, role or your observations or what you've learned about being in the service division and stuff like that is as well. So, um, if you want to start with kind of the database behind it, and I'll let you kind of take the lead and explain it because that's much more of your lane.
All right. So, um, thank you, Amy. So, talking about servicing, in our world, um, I'm head of services, so I run services for Bergflow. We're a coaching and consulting company, but this is true for your company as what it is for ours. Servicing is any place where you transact money for value. It happens after the sale. So the growth division actually does the acquisition of the client. It actually does the deal, and then it moves over into the servicing world. So what does it look like? Anything where you exchange a product or a service or time for money. So the rules that I apply as a service leader, and this is true for the business, but I kind of run service division as this micro business within Berkflow as a bigger company, is it has to operate functionally, as in it needs to be self-sustained. So it needs to be marketable, where we can isolate the service and say we can talk about what it is that we do. It needs to be profitable in its own sense. You need to understand what your actual cost of services are. How much does it cost you to service that client? So for me, I know what the cost is for a coaching client. I know, for you guys, it is what is the cost of cleaning a industrial building or cleaning a residential house or, doing a real estate transaction, whatever it is. It needs to be scalable, and as far as it cannot be built around the specific skill set of an individual. If only one person in your company has all the IP, all the understanding, all the skill, it's not really running like a business. You're more of a practice, like a doctor or a dentist. The dentist is not there, the business doesn't exist. The same is true for your service based company. If the only time a transaction can happen is when the service individual is there to do the work, then it's not scalable. So, my approach that I train the clients on as well is, can you turn the person into a product? Can you turn the service into a product? Because that's scalable. If you think of Amazon, a good example, Amazon has products, but their service delivery is what makes them scalable. Anybody can have an Amazon store, anybody can buy from Amazon. It's not Jeff Bezos' involvement with a company that actually does the delivery. I don't think he's going to come deliver my wife's $10 dress that she bought on Amazon. So it has to be independent of a singular person. And then lastly, if you're running multiple divisions, I've got clients who do power washing and Christmas lighting and commercial and chemical manufacturing and all these things, is effectively it should be sellable in of itself. That service must be sellable. because that's what's going to make your business attractive at the higher level. If you ever want to get into sales space, you want to consider mergers and acquisitions, it's the same methodology you're going to use when you look at buying another company. Yes, you're going to buy the people. Yes, you're going to get the potential resources, but ultimately you're looking at the service transaction, the skill set that that business is built around providing a service independent of a person. Otherwise, you might as well just employ the person that runs servicing for them.
Okay, so clarify something with me. You just said, for example, we just got off of a call. One of the clients he did Christmas lights and he did power washing. So those are two very different services in my mind, but they live in the same company. So in that instance, do you still have one service division and one service division leader, or do you have like two service divisions or two service division leaders?
Well, it depends on the scale of the company. I would say ultimately you want to end up with a services director that oversees two services division. And each service division needs to have its own operating budget. So if you're doing Christmas lighting, that business unit in of itself needs to be able to run on its own business financial model. And so does the cleaning business. A lot of people use their techs to do this stuff, or they use these guys to do that stuff, which is great. And again, I understand that there's seasonality to some businesses, but you have to be able to have somebody that oversees that balance. Because Amy and the operation side of our business, she's kind of like the brake and throttle in our world. You know, growth can bring on a hell of a lot of clients for us. It's up to me to be able to manage that load on the servicing side, and operations fulfills that balancing act by making sure there's enough service capacity to meet the growth need, and that there's enough growth need to match the service capacity. So it's I'm highly dependent on Amy's ability to operationally keep the business in one piece, because I'm not involved with growth. I'm not involved with the operations. I need to stay in my lane, which is providing a great service to our clients.
Okay, so let's taking a step back then, the service division. So you have a key leader that's over your service division. What is the need for them to have technical experience versus other experience, whatever that might look like?
Having technical experience or understanding, not necessarily experience, but understanding of how to run it as a service-based business, is they know what the cost of services sold are. It's easy for them to say, when we do this transaction, so you know, our growth division, our sales guys, they sold this for $100,000 contract, but I'm actually the cost of servicing, the manpower, the labor, the equipment, the chemicals, the consumables, all those things comes out of my division. So I need to have a very clear understanding of what my cost of service is, because what gets added to that is what the growth team, you know, needs to put on top of that. Because I can be profitable in my division, and if growth is not profitable in its own division, I'm funding growth, which is seriously going to put a dent in the profitability of my division. Why do I harp on profitability on a service-based company? Traditionally, a service-based company on the servicing side is the heaviest loaded. It's where the most of your costs are going to sit. If you had to use a rule of thumb, you know, you might have 10% of a cost of acquisition or a growth cost. You might have 20 to 25% on the service, on the operation side, and then between 35 and 45. And I've consulted with companies that have a 75% cost of services on the manufacturing side. So it's always the one where the most people work. It's expensive to live in that division. And ultimately, it's also the division that's responsible for retention. So the byproduct of a good service division is being able to have repeat customers, having such a good service or client experience that the client comes back. Growth can oversell, and if services under delivers, you know, you're making the work on the growth side really hard, because they're constantly in acquisition mode, not retention mode.
So a service division leader, going back, I think you kind of said this in a, maybe I'm just reiterating it in a different way, but we see a lot of company owners or CEOs that say like, oh, I see a need in the market and I'm going to go own this rep or open this business. They don't necessarily go out and do the work. They hire somebody to do the work maybe. The service division leader can fill that role, in the same aspect of like, they don't necessarily need to do the work, but I think they need to have a really deep understanding of the work for what you are saying, a profitability stance, but also they are the leader of the people doing the work. So they have to have the, I don't know if empathy is the right word, but the understanding of what those people need from a, not just from a manpower or a money standpoint, but from a growth standpoint and a nurture standpoint as well.
And the other side of that, and we'll dive into, 2 or 3 slides that I have on this is in a minute, is part of the servicing leader's responsibility is to lead and train some of the people in the service division, either hire them or train them internally to eventually become leaders within the company. So if you look at a small service-based company, the owner might still be doing servicing there, might still be in the field. If you adopt the mindset that, hey, I don't want to be responsible for managing my service division, I need a leader there, it becomes their responsibility to develop a team. And if you're going from 1 team to 2 teams to 3 teams to 20 teams, where's your next team leader going to come from? It's going to come from the person at the bottom that was developed to become a leader. So that's always, fishing in your own pond is a lot cheaper because you already have emotional equity. You already have culture integration. You already have a value proposition instilled in that person in what it is that they do. To put them on a leadership development path is a lot cheaper and a lot quicker for you. If you can hire somebody in, and there is always a need for that, but if you hire somebody in, you hit that hockey stick, of the J curve, is you make a hire, the production actually goes down because now you're not servicing 100% of the time. You're only servicing 70% of the time because there's new people to be trained, there's training, there's certification, there's licensing, there's all these things. So bringing outside people in, you have to understand there's always a dip before you start getting that return on investment. So being able to nurture a leadership program within your service division. One, they know the industry, they know your clients, they know your product, they know your standards, they know everything about your business. So it's easier for you to grow them up through the company. So Amy, if you can pull up the slides.
Yeah.
One of the things that, sorry, did you
want
to say?
I just wanted to add to your point, in the services division, based off of the weight of scale, that's going to be probably more predominant in the service division. You're going to have more people. Your service division is going to grow by the numbers probably quicker than the other divisions also.
Yeah, because effectively, unless you're selling a retail product, so in a traditional retail environment, services would include brick and mortar building like Walmart or those guys, the brick and mortar physical location. So unless you're in the retail space, if you're in the service space, you're selling human skill that's translated into time on site. They're cleaning, they're installing, they're manufacturing, they're doing something. So it's always going to be the heaviest part of your organization. Traditionally, we've seen a lot of development in that space. And then when we have the conversation next week around operations and growth, they're kind of seen as byproducts or, just stuff that we have to do, where everybody focuses on the service division. They want to make sure that their technicians are there. Oftentimes we find that you overpay your first technician. Why? Because you're looking for somebody that matches your skill set or has a specific skill set. That person then comes in at such a high level that there isn't much room for them to grow. And if everybody else goes onto their level, you'll become unprofitable in your service division just because you've overpaid your first technician. And the way around that is actually design your organization to say, hey, there's a road of progression for you. There's a road of development for you. If you need to earn more money, if you need more opportunity, it's attached to a higher responsibility. So looking at the slides that I have pulled up, you have to craft your organization. A lot of companies, just organically grow into an org chart, and they kind of have what they have, and the owner or the key skill people kind of sit in 4 different places in the company, and they wear these multiple hats. And that's great if you're looking to build a business around yourself. If you're looking to build a business that's scalable, is you actually have to design your 3-year organizational structure and go that far ahead of yourself and say, if I go 3 years ahead and we're $1 million company today, I want to be a $5 million company. You have to understand what got you here won't get you there. That includes your capacity or ability to act as CEO or be a leader in the business. You have to grow, because you're kind of up against that ceiling, because some of the limitations that your business is experiencing are some of your limitations. Because you're running around back into the servicing division saying, I need to make sure that the guys are on site. I need to go do quality control. I need to go deliver the chemicals. I need to make sure that this happens. So you effectively become the bottleneck on top of your service division. And also, you have to take in consideration how many people you can actively manage. We're talking active management. We just had a call with some of our clients now. Is you need to incorporate their vision into the company's vision. And for you to have those conversations, to have those relationships, you can't have 20 people whose dreams you're going to make a reality in the company, because you're going to have this owner operator and then 20 people that report to you. If you break it up into the service operations and growth, it becomes a bite-sized chunk in the service division, because they are a different animal. They require a different way of being dealt with. They think differently. They operate differently. Their objectives are different. Some of the software that we use, when you look at their psychometric profiling, is they like a very structured environment, very scalable, very predictable. They're not the growth type of people who likes to go out and hunt for the thrill of the kill. They're not as motivated by immediate financial reward or immediate gratification. For them, it's about perfection. For them, it's about getting stuff done correctly. So it's a very different type of person that's going to live in your service division in the long run. So one of the things I think is important for us, Amy, to talk about today is what does a service leader look like? So one of the things I thought helpful is, if we look at a service division, right? A service division serves your customers and clients at the highest level. It doesn't serve the business, it serves the clients. It's a client-facing side of your business. And I'll keep saying this, it has to operate on a strong economic model with profitability and scalability in mind. That is the mission of your service business. If anything else exists there, you've got to ask yourself, does it really sit in my service division, or am I just borrowing from operations, or am I just borrowing from growth responsibilities? So diving a little bit deeper into what the profile looks like for a key leader, it is somebody that is customer service minded. They have to be able to put themselves on the customer side and say, if I was the customer, how would I expect to be treated? What will it look like if I was the customer? They have to be solution orientated. So there are 2 ways that people show up as solution orientated people. I'm more the gray problem solver. It's great. I have a solution for every single problem. The problem is it's not always scalable. So I can come up with a solution for this problem, but I have to say, can I solve the same problem the same way without crippling the business, without putting strain on Amy's division or the growth division? Therefore, quality control has to sit within the service division. It can't be the CEO's responsibility to say, I'm going to manage quality. Each person in the service division has to own that. They have to be able to practice care and candor. Ultimately, they're going to be on site with the client the most. The client's going to come to them and say, hey, oh, I know that we only quoted on the driveway, but can you do the backyard and the roof and the this? And it's like, that's where you have to say, you know what, this is actually outside of the scope. And they also have to apply that care and candor with the team that they're running. Is this guy here today? Is he doing a good job? Am I providing training? Do I have quality control? Or am I just the guy sitting in the truck and I've got the other techs outside in the sun spraying bleach and chemicals and stuff, and I'm sitting in the air-conditioned truck all day? So the service leader is in the field with them. And one of the key things you have to look for is a strong track record of success. They have to be able to prove they've taken something from this point to this point and improved it. So during the interview process or during the identification of who this potential individual could be, is look for that strong track record of they have an upward trajectory. I said this last week as well. If I meet somebody that's on an upward trajectory and my company is going this way, all I have to do is divert them into my lane and they will add their upward trajectory to where I'm going. I cannot want them to succeed more than what they want to do it for themselves. So I can use their upward momentum to bring value to what it is that we're doing.
I think too, one of the things on the key profile there, quality control focus does not mean they're executing. It means that they are building systems that are implementing quality control. Same thing with customer service. Like, they're building the systems that hold the customer service at the highest level that are then being executed by the other people. Because again, we're focusing on the key leader here, not just the technicians that are actually doing the work or the service people.
Yeah, ultimately, the leader is responsible for making sure that these things happen. There's a customer-centric focus to how the division runs. They can't tell the client, hey, we have a problem that we don't know how to fix. Quality control, as I said, is part of everything that you do. Everybody is responsible for contributing to it, but the leader is responsible for monitoring it. Maybe that's a better way I can articulate it.
And setting the standard for it. Like, yes, this is what I expect. This is the standard that we execute to, and now I'm going to hold you accountable to those standards, kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's why I gave the example, of you can't have a team leader sitting in the truck and then the rest of the team are working out on the roof or, installing HVAC, and you're in the air-conditioned truck and these guys are sweating their backsides off, doing their hard labor work, and you're just sitting there waiting for them to finish. Effectively, all you have is a driver. You don't have a team leader. You have a driver who's driving the team to site, and he's waiting there like a Uber driver that gets paid for the entire day, and then they go back at the end of the day. A true leader is in the trenches with them. They make sure that the standards, the quality, the customer service, all those things are upheld by, as you say, building systems, having processes to monitor those things, and reporting those in KPIs. We say this every week, is numbers are the language of business. So how am I going to know that this person is successful? Is by looking at the numbers. For some companies, it can be, how many Google reviews are we getting? How quickly are we finishing on time? How many times do we have to go back to a site? How many callbacks do we get? All those things. So everything in this division can be measured as a number. So moving along, so when you look at the structure, how to develop the structure or design the structure, is it has to be designed to match the needs of your client. You can't go to the client and say, this is the way that we do things, because the market shifts. We see this with the economy changing, changes in the industry, new machines, new equipment, new chemicals, all these things. There's a constant change, and the clients you have to be able to get feedback from this division to say, hey, the clients are asking for this. A lot of the conversations that I have behind the scenes with Amy is, she's like, hey, show me the process on this. And I'm like, this is the current process, but also this is what the clients are asking me for. So I have to find a way to incorporate what the clients are asking me for as part of our service solution. I'm not saying go outside of the lane, but you have to it's the ears on the ground. It has to be designed to maximize the economic model. Given the weight and the cost in your servicing division, very quickly, I mean, I consult with a lot of companies in this space where they don't actually pull out the profit of the business. They leave all their capital in the business as operating capital. So instead of having a divisional model saying, I'm running my service division at 35, that's in my budget, I'm actually spending 45. Oh, I actually know where I'm overspending on 10% of my division, leaving all the money in the business. You're working with lag measures. You're working with, oh, we spent 45 last month. Let's try and do better this month. How? I don't know, because we don't know exactly what it is that we spent the money on. Moving on, it's designed to maximize systems and human efficiency. Any service-based business, you have to understand that people buy from people. Yes, the growth rep, the sales rep, that's the guy that they initially buy from, but they're not going to remember the growth rep. They're going to remember the guys who went to site. They're going to remember the guys who actually came and did the work. So those people have to understand, how do I use the system in my, the human system, and how do I make them the most efficient so that I can, one, give an upward development path for the people in my service division, create opportunity for them whilst expanding the opportunity of the company. It has to be designed for sustainability and long-term scalability. When you're an owner operator, it's easy for you to say, don't worry, Mrs. Smith, I'll jump in my truck and come to your house and come fix your problem. But the service division is actually, hey, we're seeing a pattern here of certain things emerging. When that happens, we either have a breakdown in our system or someone's not following the process. And then you have to chart the flow of service and the client interaction engagement. Once the deal is done, that's where the delivery needs to happen. That's where you need to deliver on what you just sold. So the service division needs to have a very clear understanding of what that client interaction looks like and what the engagement is. At the end of a job or an on-site deal, we have to go to the client and say, hey, is this done satisfactory? Are we happy with how it's been done? What could we have done different? Do you mind leaving us a Google review? All those things needs to be built into systems. Otherwise, if it's not built into a system, I promise you, you guys can all attest and testify to this in isolation to yourself, is things just don't happen. Most companies say, hey, I want a lot of Google reviews, but is asking for a Google review actually part of your process? Is it something that you say, hey, this is when we ask for the Google review, not before we kill her plants, but after we've told her, hey, we've done a good job, and would you recommend us to someone else? And then when you look at the results and the KPIs, what's going to indicate success for the service division is there's ways that you can measure that in a KPI. As I said, what is our customer satisfaction number? We had 100 jobs in the last month. How many satisfied customers do we have? If you're saying, well, nobody complained, it's an assumption. You've got to be able to say, hey, we have 100 satisfied customers. The question is, how do you answer that question? If I had to ask you, how do you know you have a satisfied customer? There has to be divisional goals and activity with results tracking. And that includes training. We want to expand our stuff. So we do, power washing, and we do Christmas lights. So what is the goal? Well, we want to have so many technicians. Well, do we have a training program if we bring somebody in that's never hung Christmas lights? Can they carry a ladder? Can they go up a ladder? Do they know the safety protocols, all that type of stuff? And how do we track the results around that training? What are the revenue metrics? So if you look at the profit first model, if you're saying, hey, I want to run my company at a 10% profit margin, right? If you don't preset that goal, everything's going to happen, and then you're going to live in the world where you say, well, my business is 2% profitable. Dave Ramsey talks about this. It's true for your own life. You save first and then you live off the rest. The same is true for your business. You set a goal for your profit line and then you operate your business. If it requires you to reinvest capital back into the business, to say, you know what, I budgeted 35, I'm currently at 40. Mr. Service Leader, how are we going to get 35? Maybe we don't order last minute. Maybe we plan better. Maybe we need different software for our route planning and our scheduling. All those things are going to make the division a lot more profitable. There needs to be metrics to measure cost of goods sold or cost of services sold if you retail or provide hard items on sale. Quality control, there has to be KPIs around that. Technical performance, which includes training. How are we going to train people? How are we going to make them better? How are we going to make the service better? How are we going to do a 4-hour job in a 3.5-hour time slot? Because that's where we can. You're not going to take a 4-hour job and make it a 1-hour job overnight. You have to start breaking off little pieces at the end, making sure that it's scalable, that it's economically viable for you to operate within that 4 hours. Because if you don't set that, you're probably spending 4.5 hours on a job that should be taking 4 hours. You cost it at 4, you're spending 4.5. Having the KPIs, you can go back and say, actually, we're spending too much time on site. Or you know what, we're not putting enough time between, job 1 for today and job 2 for today. So our scheduling software maybe needs an upgrade or a review. Tracking client retention. It's in your service division. How many repeat customers do I have? Am I expecting my service division to do upsells? If I'm on site and I'm going to clean your driveway, oh, by the way, we also do lawn care. By the way, we also do, gutter cleaning, whatever it is. Identify those, either then have a system to sell it to the client or give the feedback to the growth division and say, you know what? The last 10 clients that we had, 8 of them showed interest. We want to get gutter cleaning done. We want to get lawn care done. And then, the last 3 is, what is unique to your industry? What is unique to your business? What are the other things that you can answer for yourself that are indicators of good service delivery? Any questions on that, Amy?
I don't know if I have a question, but your second slide said something along the lines of maximizing human efficiency, but also maximizing systems. And it made me think of, I grew up in a really small town on a farm in the middle of nowhere, and we had a guy who did our well servicing. And every time he came out to our house, he stayed for dinner. Like, the amount of time he got paid for the amount of time he spent at our house was not equal at all. But, you're going to have you're going to have technicians who want to maximize the human experience, and you're going to have technicians who want to maximize efficiency. And I think as the key leader, building the systems where those two things can cohesively mesh together is really important. And that's where, to me, as a key leader of the division, you're really looking at a high level of what are all the things that have to be touched. And then you kind of have to just build a wash and repeat system for your technicians to follow, because they're not necessarily in the moment thinking of the next job or the end of the day, or did I talk to this customer enough, or did I ask for a Google review, or they have to have it very structured, and you have to be able to take that structure and build it and break it and notice it and recognize it and then account for it and find the numbers and everything that goes along with it also.
So David Osborne, he's a mentor of Dirk, and he talks about the notion of air game and ground game. And the service division leader needs to be able to play air game and ground game. As CEO, you can play air game all day long. You can say, hey, I want to grow the business to $20 million. That's fine. The question is how. If the immediate answer is, well, I just need more business, we all know that there's a hell of a lot of business out there. The biggest bottleneck people are experiencing is I can't retain people on the servicing side. I'm struggling to keep my home inspector. I'm struggling to keep my I'm struggling to keep my driver. I'm struggling to retain the people because they are unique to the industry. Growth people are growth people. You can train them. No discredit to growth. I don't live in that space, so I only wear servicing as a badge. If you're good at sales, you can sell anything to anybody. Operations people have a keen business mind, and they're able to look at 500 different things at the same time and still make sense of it. Service division has to be a very structured approach because ultimately that is what your business is known for. Good service delivery. There are people who will continually use a service provider, and it's true for us, on our mobile services, on your internet services, we will sometimes pay a premium for good service. It's not, hey, I'm going to go to the cheapest guy, because we all know just having a race to the bottom on price, you're going to sacrifice quality on servicing. So the servicing side is what upholds the value proposition of the transaction. People look and say, how well I'm paying you, I don't mind paying you, but how well are you delivering the service that I need? That is what you're going to get known for. So understanding what lives within the service division and having that service leader that can play air game and ground game. Because as a CEO, you make the statement and ask the question, what do you want? I have $1 million company. I want to grow it to 5 million. That's what you want to do. The immediate question you ask after that is, who do I go to get that done? And that is your service leader, your operations leader, and your growth leader. How they do it is their responsibility. That is groundwork game. How do I increase my profit margin in my service division? How do I improve my training? How do I do that? All the how questions lives underneath that leader. They become the who in your world. There's a book called Who Not How. So they become the who in your world that you can say, if I see that my services are out of whack, my cost or my quality or my servicing or my client perception, who do I go to fix that? If you step down into that how space, you become part of the solution. And then you're also part of the problem, because we all only have so many hours in a week. By doing that, you're influencing the culture in your business to say, whenever there's a problem, bring it to me, I will fix it. And you will always play ground game as a business owner, because you're telling your business, you're instilling it into the culture, I am the solution to the problems. So being able to distinguish between a what question and a how result, how the result shows up, is what you go to the who person. So having a clear expectation of, how do I want this service leader to show up in my world? What do I want them to do? What is the good indicator of success? When this person is successful, what are the things that are going to happen? So if you look at Pareto's principle, it's the 80-20. As a CEO, business owners spend a lot of time in that 80% space, dealing with urgent stuff, urgent and important stuff, dumpster fires, call it whatever you want, customer complaints, technicians not showing up, all that stuff. None of that stuff's going to move your business. It's the 20% that yields the 80% result that's going to move the needle in your business. That's where you want your service leader to focus on. Is how can we improve the systems? How can we improve our efficiency? How can we improve our human efficiency? How can we improve our cost of services sold? That lives within the 20%. There will always be the 80%. We all know there's always something urgent. There's always something coming out of left field. But if you're always in that reactive state to say, I'm just going to deal with the biggest noise today, you're not playing air game, you're just playing ground game.
Okay, so let's get tactical here. What does the cadence of you as a service division leader on a weekly or daily or however you want to look at it, like what is kind of your tactical cadence?
As in how I run my day?
Or your week or however you want to look at it.
Okay. So again, this is unique to each business, but in my world, in Berkeley's world where I exist, is I have 3 client-facing days where I actually work in the business, and then I have 2 full days where I work on the business. Because I'm a service leader, but I still deliver services to our clients. And it allows me to say, okay, if I need to train somebody, train a new guide, train a new person coming on board, train a new client, I can do that in the work on the business block. A lot of times, as business owners, we don't consider the cost of task switching from one task to the other. Now I'm doing a little bit of financing, then I'm talking to the CPA, then I'm delivering hoses to site, then I'm doing an estimate here, then I forget to phone this client, then I still wanted to get an email. So we're constantly running between all these tasks. You have to set your week. And again, I actually, this is a journal that we highly recommend, is have a weekly planning journal. And you start your week by saying, at the end of this week, how will I have been successful? I needed to have done this and this and this. And, to quote Amy, in my world, when it's done, it's done. Almost done is not done. Done is done. So I have to look at my week ahead and say, okay, what can I bring to done by the end of the week so that I don't have to go and revisit it? Is that me working on? Is that me working on a process? Is that me building a tool? Is that me deconstructing something because we've built something halfway in the past and we didn't finish it? I have to set a target for the week. What's my success indicators? And then hold myself accountable to those results by the end of the week. It helps me distinguish between when I'm working, am I doing 80% stuff now or am I doing 20% stuff? The 20% stuff is what I need to get done. That's going to move the needle for the company. 80% stuff, it's transactional. It's me dealing directly with a client. It's me dealing directly with a specific issue. It'll always exist, but I cannot forego the 20% at the cost of making sure that the 80% doesn't fall through. Because I can't manage all these different tasks in isolation. I can't spin all these plates individually. I have to build a system that'll allow me to build on the success of last week. What did I complete last week? What am I completing this week? Because if I can do that weekly, I can do that quarterly. If I can do that quarterly, I can do that annually. Therefore, when I have a management meeting with Dirk and Amy, I can say, these are my plans for the quarter. These are my plans for the year. It then becomes self-discipline for me to say, okay, I've committed to those things. I can't walk away and say, oh, I was so busy in my 80%, I didn't get to the important stuff.
So what is, as a service division leader, as a member of the ELT, what's the biggest obstacle or challenge that you have overcome or are facing in taking on that key role?
The biggest challenge, and this is part of my development as a leader, is if business was easy, we can just buy it off the shelf and say, hey, this is how you run a power washing business. Here's all the rules. This is what you do. Follow the steps 1 to 10 and you'll be successful. There are so many variables in that. Who works for you? What's your market? What's your price? Well, there's so many variables that needs to go into that calculation. You can't buy an off the shelf successful business. That's what franchises try and do. And I have no opinion about that. If they want to do that, that's fine. If you want to make your business successful, the biggest challenge that I have is taking what's in my head and being able to put it on paper, because I'm moving from being the process to running the process. And it's easy as a business owner to fall victim to that, to say, oh, it's easy. You just do this, 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 this. But if you don't step away and allow that leader to self-identify where the gaps are, if you're just solving the problems for them all the time, I mean, we had a conversation about that with a client earlier today. You're teaching them, hey, every time you have a problem, just come to me. So they never develop as a leader. So my biggest challenge that I'm constantly evolving in, or facing and trying to evolve in, hopefully Amy will send me flowers after this, is I'm trying to take what's in my head and being able to put it on paper where it makes sense to someone else. Having a training system, having a onboarding system, or having everything systematized, because the same that's true for the CEO. If you cannot walk away from your business and your business run without you, you're working for your business. The same is true if I get held hostage by processes in the division. If I can't step away and the servicing and the business continues as a service leader, the business is selling my time. That's it. That's all the business is selling. My skill set and my time. If I can build systems that's replicatable outside of my involvement, and that for me is the biggest development cycle, because it's not, hey, I'm just going to break through that ceiling and everything's fine. Because if you hit that $1 million mark, you're up against that ceiling. When you hit that $2.5 million mark, you're up against that ceiling. When you hit that $5-6 million mark, you're up against that ceiling. Every time it moves up, you hit that same ceiling again, because you're building systems based on your capacity. What software do I have? What type of people do I have? What I'm doing stuff based on what I used to do before. So I'm trying to maximize past systems at efficiency, but sometimes you just need to create a new system. We see this in just when I talk about a system. I know it's very ethereal. It's the if you can look at it in the way that people get paid. Is it W-2 or is it 1099? I used to just pay everybody W-2, or I just used to have 1099s. Well, it worked at a certain scale, but if your business gets bigger, that model might not be sustainable. It might not be profitable. For me, it's hell of an easy. I just say, hey, choose the easiest route. But by saying that, by default, I'm just telling Amy, you've got an administrative nightmare on the background. I need you to recon 50 guys. They all get paid by the hour. You need to find a way to track who's where, when, how much they've worked, who broke what, who's used. I create an administrative nightmare because I'm sticking to a system that I used to do when I was, me and 2 guys in a truck. So what got you here won't get you there. And there needs to be a reinvention of some of these systems or processes based on the need of where your business is right now.
I think that's good. And I think that also brings up a point. This is true for every key leader when you start to develop the executive leadership team. But when you as a service division leader comes to the table, you are fighting for your division and what your division needs. But then you have to collaborate with the tactical, what the operations division can handle. To your point about the, how we're going to pay people, maybe your people want to be paid as 1099, but that creates a nightmare for us. And so it becomes an executive leadership where you have to bring your debate, I have to bring my debate, and then we have to work together to find a resolution that works for everyone. Yes. And so there's a lot of 360-degree leadership when you're talking about one of these ELT roles. You have to lead across the table. You have to lead down. You also have to lead up a lot of times in working directly with the CEO too. So I think that's a good note in that as well.
Yeah, and I mean, great observation. Is when we as an ELT meet, I show up wearing my. I'm part of Workflow as a company, but I'm there representing everybody in my service division, and I fight for the budget in my division as much as Amy fights for the budget in hers, and our growth division fights for their budget. So I have to be very clear of saying I want to stay within budget. I would love to create the perfect client experience, and then spend 95% of our revenue on the servicing side. I'll just dry up the rest of the business. So there is this balancing act that I'm relying on the operations to say, you know what, you've got this wish list of stuff that you want to do. This is what our cash flow allows. Not which is easiest, which is the highest return on investment for us right now. So Amy and I have a lot of financial conversations around divisional budgets, what's important to us, what I can spend on, what I should be spending on. I still make the decisions within my division. But I have to run my division as a company, and I have to show up to the table representing my division. And if growth says, hey, we've got this good opportunity, I'm like, I don't have the manpower to service this thing that you're selling. No, but if we can sign this big contract next month, I said, you can sign whatever you want. I still don't have people that can do the work. So I have to balance what you guys want to grow with how much development that I need to put into this division. I need to make sure that everybody's skilled. I need to make sure that there's enough leadership. I need to make sure that there's enough resources in my division to result in what you guys are wanting to grow. The owner of the company said that we were going to go from 1 million to 2.5. It's easy to do the numbers to say our average ticket price is $5,000. We need so many clients. That's fine. But it's a very different conversation because I have equipment costs. You might have a truck. You'll have more licensing. You'll have different costs sitting in this division. So somebody needs to keep an eye on that. It's not going to happen by default. The CEO sitting in all three results in somebody living in that transactional 80% world because they're building service systems to fulfill growth obligations, or they're building operational systems to make servicing solutions. And it doesn't necessarily translate that way. It's also about the ownership of the client. The client enters at the growth side, they go through operations, and they end up on the servicing side. That's where the client ends up. The client experience, the client life cycle, the client expectation, all that stuff happens. If you've oversold or undersold, that it's easy to identify then, hey, it lives in my growth role. We need to change our pricing structure. We need to change our value stack. We need to change our pricing model. The servicing side is, hey, I actually need to deliver at a constant quality that the clients are used to, because this effectively will become the reputation of the business. So I hope that was helpful. I hope you guys learned something today. As we started this call today, a service division in most service-based companies, it exists, but it kind of has these other tasks or roles sometimes folded in. Or you say, hey, operations is just this little thing that we do at night between 6 and 10 when I run payroll, or when I avoid my CPA, where I have to pay my taxes. Amy's going to dive a little bit deeper into what does operations actually mean. It's not, this is servicing, this is growth, everything else is operations. Because that's where people say, well, if everything else is operations, I'll just give it to the service person. Or you know what? Nobody does it. Because a lot of the uncompleted tasks in a business, when I consult with companies, it's not the servicing side where they have a lack of systems and processes. They maybe not have it as scalable as they want, but a lot of the we'll get to it later stuff actually sits in the operation side. You know what? I'm still just going to run around with a manual book writing down quotes. I'm just going to go through my phone at the end of the day and do all my callbacks. I don't know how much money I made on this job versus this job versus this job. Do I have a tracking system on my conversion? So a lot of stuff sits outside of that. Being able to to create the sandbox and give autonomy to the service leader to operate within that sandbox makes it a lot more controlling for the service leader to say, I need to bring results within this space of the business.
Yeah, and I think sometimes this is a lot to kind of take in. And so just know if you're watching this at any time on any of our platforms, leave us a comment at any point in time. We're always happy to interact and answer questions as they come up throughout the week. Like Wesley said, we'll be back next week focusing on operations and kind of what that entails and what that looks like and what that key leader looks like also. Um, Outside of that, if you want to contact us in the meantime, my mouse died again. There it is. You can always email us here at contact@verflow.com. We do offer strategy sessions that we can kind of deep dive into your business and kind of, I don't know, Wesley, you can explain them better than I can actually.
Yeah, so we offer strategy sessions, with either myself or one of my team members. We'll give you an hour of our time. We'll go over your business and say, okay, let's take a snapshot of where you are today. Let's see where some of the bottlenecks are. What do you feel you're stuck on? Where is it that you want to go? We find a lot of business owners feel very isolated. It's like, hey, I run this business and I can't tell anybody about my struggles. So we're not there to make you feel better about anything. The strategy sessions are there is to literally unpack and say, what is it that you need to focus on right now? I know that you want to do this and I know that you want to do this, but there's some strategic decisions that you have to make now to set yourself up for success in 3 years. You can go hire somebody to meet your today need. That's easy. You can go to McDonald's and pay the guy at the cash register $10 an hour or more and he'll come work for you. To find just somebody to put a button in a seat, that's easy. Anybody can do that. To find the right person for the right position, understanding the right motivation, that takes design. And the precursor to that is you have to design the expectation first. What do I want them to look like when I see them? When I come across talent, what does it look like? Can I identify it? Those are some of the conversations that we have in the strat session. So I'd would love to meet some of you guys, some of you business owners. Even if you're not the business owner and you're a divisional leader, or you want to be a divisional leader and you feel that your owner needs to be on one of these calls, please reach out to us at contact@brokeflow.com. We'll get you guys scheduled with one of our consultants. And then we also have an event coming up in October up in Nashville. It's a 2-day deep dive where we take you through the journey of exploring what is the structure, hiring, training, how to build leadership teams. Our biggest philosophy that we teach and preach is the companies with the best team will win. It's not the company with the best product. It's not the company with the best price, because those are two variables that is always changing. The company with the best team will win. So we've got a 2-day deep dive coming up October 20th and 21st. It's going to be up in Nashville. It's a live event. Our entire team will be there. Please check it out on our website if you guys want to get a ticket. But yeah, reach out to us on contact@broflow.com. We'll schedule you for a strat session, or we would love to see you at our training event in Nashville.
And we'll be back next week.
And then we will be back next week. Amy, thank you for hosting. You guys have the privilege of listening to Amy explain the deep, dark secrets of what operations mean. Most companies say, well, I've got an admin person in the office. That's great. But admin is just a task. They just do stuff. They do what you tell them to do. An operations leader, I'm a very, very big advocate of the book, Rocket Fuel. It talks about visionary and integrator. The integrator is the person that makes stuff happen. They are the person that helps keep the business accountable, keep the divisions accountable, keeps an eye on the finances, keeps an eye on the books. I'm pretty sure none of you started a business so that you can spend 4 hours with a CPA going through your P&L statement. You all started a business with a very clear expectation that I'm going to start this business Why? Because I'm probably good at what I do, and it can give me time and money freedom. So getting back into that original reason why you started the business, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that next week when we talk about operations. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Amy, for hosting. Love to hear from you guys, and have a great week. See you next week.